Hello, my name's Kate Mason, and I'm making this video today regarding a submission opened by the New South Wales State Government regarding the community's thoughts about the super battery being planned at Lake Munmorah within the Central Coast Local Government Area, Australia. My focus in this video is not on the concerns many are raising about the renewable energy sector and its effect on farming land and the environment. Rather, this video is focusing on the foreign-owned corporations being awarded contracts in Australia's energy landscape. In particular, I will give a very short rundown on BlackRock, the world's largest investment firm based in New York. The New South Wales State Government has recently awarded BlackRock the contract to build the battery on the Central Coast. It's important to note that though the state government has already awarded the contract to BlackRock, it is now asking the public for their input, begging the question, what influence do we really have? Here is the submission and what we are being asked to respond to: Waratah Super Battery Energy Storage System, and it's under the State Significant Infrastructure. The submission is closing on Thursday in 3 days' time. On the planning portal for New South Wales Government, where we see the exhibition of critical state significant infrastructure application, the Waratah Super Battery Energy Storage System. In the submission, they ask us to include a statement on whether we support or object to the application, or if we are simply providing comment, the reasons why we support and object to the application. And what we are responding to is the Waratah Super Battery Munmorah Environmental Impact Statement put out by Energy Co, which is an arm of New South Wales Government. This is a very long document, but just a few things to point out. Energy Co in a lot of their documents talks about the necessity of community engagement. And again, it is talked about here, engagement with the community and other key stakeholders has been important for developing the project, and stakeholders are identified as those who may be interested in or who may be affected by the Waratah Super Battery, and included government and technical stakeholders, landowners, and the wider community. Under hazards, they talk about fires starting at the Waratah Super Battery being a credible risk. Under 1.2, Energy Co is introduced. The Energy Corporation of New South Wales, Energy Co, is the proponent for the Waratah Super Battery project. It's a statutory authority established under the Energy and Utilities Administration Act and the EII Act, and forms part of New South Wales Treasury. Energy Co is responsible for leading the delivery of renewable energy zones as part of New South Wales Government's electricity infrastructure roadmap. In 2020, the EII Act identified that Energy Co will be appointed as the infrastructure planner for the state's first 5 REZs, renewable energy zones, in the Central West Orana, New England, Southwest, Hunter Central Coast, and Illawarra regions. As the infrastructure planner for these REZs, Energy Co will recommend network infrastructure projects and will work closely with communities, investors, and industries to coordinate investment in renewable energy generation, electricity networks, and storage infrastructure. On 2nd of September 2022, the Waratah Super Battery project was declared a CSSI, which is Critical State Significant Infrastructure, and I'll come to that a little bit later and explain what that is. Here we have the map of the proposed Waratah Super Battery location that they have supplied. On the Up, which is a news and community information site for the Upper Central Coast, they released an article, Impacts of Super Battery at Lake Munmorah, released. They give a general overview on the document. It's a 212-page document. It's packed with technical information, and without specific knowledge, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to critique it. Instead, here is some of the top line information, crucial numbers. It's going to take 18 months to build. Up to 150 construction jobs will be available at its peak, but only 10 to 15 when it's operating, and they go on to discuss more. As discussed previously, this comes under state significant infrastructure. Some types of infrastructure are deemed to have state significance due to the size, economic value, or potential impacts that it may have. And in relation to how our local council area is involved, the SSI applications are managed by the department, and the department considers the following when assessing SSI application: existing strategic plans and policies, including state, regional, and local, feedback and comments from the relevant local council. And I am in the process of asking the Central Coast Council for any submissions or information they've put through regarding this SSI. And at its core, the state significant development process enables the assessment of significant projects at the state level rather than at the local council level. Quick overview on information that New South Wales Government has put out. This is 14th of October 2022. Waratah Super Battery powers up at Munmorah. The Southern Hemisphere's largest network battery will be built at the site of the old Lake Munmorah Power Station. October the 18th, 2022, BlackRock acquired developer awarded the super battery contract in New South Wales. Developer Acacia Energy, who is owned by BlackRock, has been selected for the Waratah Super Battery project in New South Wales, Australia, with Powen Energy as key equipment supplier. And on November 21st, 2022, Powen BlackRock start working on the world's largest battery. Powen and BlackRock have started working on what they describe as the world's most powerful battery. BlackRock-owned Acacia Energy is now developing the Waratah Super Battery north of Sydney. Regarding Powen Energy Corporation, an unknown buyer acquired Powen Energy Corporation in 2021. Powen raises $135 million funding from Singapore's GIC, Trilantic North America, and Energy Impact Partners. Powen is an American corporation. Trilantic Capital Management is based out of New York. GIC is one of the 3 investment entities in Singapore that manage the government's reserves, and Energy Impact Partners is based out of New York. Before I explore BlackRock further, I also want to mention the foreign ownership of Transgrid. From 14th of October 2022, Transgrid will play a crucial role in connecting the largest standby network battery in the Southern Hemisphere to the electricity network. As of 2022, the current owners of Transgrid are UTA Power Networks Trust and Spark Infrastructure, both Australian-owned. Then we have Tareed Investments, Abu Dhabi. We have the CDPQ, which is Canadian, and OMERS is also Canadian. Now on to BlackRock. BlackRock began in the USA in 1988. Larry Fink was a co-founder and is CEO and chairman of BlackRock. BlackRock is extraordinarily powerful. Its immense wealth is growing yearly, and with over 10 trillion in assets under management, makes it the world's largest money manager. According to MarketWatch, there is currently around 40 trillion in circulation around the world, which means BlackRock manages a quarter of the world's money. BlackRock is a World Economic Forum strategic partner, which includes 100 of the most powerful corporations in the world. Larry Fink, Chairman and CEO of BlackRock, is on the World Economic Forum Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees serves as the guardian of the World Economic Forum's mission and values. Larry Fink is also a board member on the Council on Foreign Relations. And for those who aren't aware, the Council on Foreign Relations is an American think tank specializing in United States foreign policy and international relations. Its membership has included senior politicians, numerous secretaries of state, CIA, directors, bankers, lawyers, professors, corporate directors and CEOs, and senior media figures. They are incredibly influential. Through its investment and business approach, BlackRock has developed enormous influence on governments, banks, finance, and media. It's heavily invested in many industries, including energy. BlackRock is much more than an investment firm and has very strong ties to the US government. In Think We Trust, BlackRock is now the fourth arm of government. From May 21, 2020, when the Federal Reserve needed Wall Street's help with its pandemic rescue mission, it went straight to Larry Fink. The BlackRock Inc. co-founder, chairman, and chief executive officer has become one of the industry's most important government whisperers. In contrast to other influential financiers who've built on ties to President Trump, Fink possesses a power that's more technocratic. BlackRock, the world's largest money manager, can do the things governments need right now. Campaign for Accountability, February 11th, 2019. It is BlackRock's use of the revolving door to exert influence, however, that really sets it apart. According to the Campaign for Accountability's BlackRock Transparency Project, there are 99 people who have moved from BlackRock into government positions and vice versa, including 6 former BlackRock employees who work at the Securities and Exchange Commission. In 2016, journalist David Dayen catalogued the veritable shadow government full of former Treasury Department officials Fink had assembled within his financial empire. BlackRock is influential in US politics. Before running for US presidency, Joe Biden went to the New York offices of BlackRock, the major investment firm, for a meeting with Larry Fink, the CEO. They talked about the state of the world and the country, about what's going on in the markets. Towards the end, Fink said to Biden, "I'm here to help," according to people told about the conversation. BlackRock also influences the 6 biggest US banks. BlackRock, the most powerful company you've never heard of, back in 2019. The decade since the last financial crisis has given rise to massive asset managers, and perhaps no country in the world now has greater reach and influence over financial markets and governments than BlackRock. Political activists have gone on the attack against hedge funds and private equity funds, but BlackRock alone controls more assets than every private equity fund and hedge fund combined. This tremendous voting power has often given advantage to management in shareholder battles, and it has raised questions about common ownership across industries. BlackRock is the top or second largest stakeholder in the 6 largest US banks. Other industries see similar common ownership by BlackRock. From Larry Fink's 2022 letter to CEOs, The Power of Capitalism, we understand his perspective when he says, employees are increasingly looking to their employer as the most trusted, competent, and ethical source of information, more so than government, the media, and non-government organizations. In 2019, BlackRock put out this paper, Dealing with the Next Downturn from Unconventional Monetary Policy to Unprecedented Policy Coordination. BlackRock authored the bailout plan before there was a crisis. Now it's been hired by 3 central banks to implement the plan. The BlackRock plan calls for blurring the lines between government fiscal policy and central bank monetary policy, exactly what the US Treasury and the Federal Reserve are doing today in the United States. BlackRock has now been hired by the Federal Reserve, the Bank of Canada, and Sweden's central bank to implement key features of the plan. 3 of the authors of the BlackRock plan previously worked as central bankers in the US, Canada, and Switzerland, respectively. The authors wrote in the white paper that in a downturn, the only solution is for a more formal and historically unusual coordination of monetary and fiscal policy to provide effective stimulus. We now understand why, for the first time in history, the US Congress handed over $454 billion of taxpayers' money to the Fed without any meaningful debate to eat losses on toxic assets produced by the Wall Street banks it supervises. The Fed plans to leverage the $454 billion into a $4.54 trillion bailout plan, going direct with bailouts to the commercial paper market, money market funds, and a host of other markets. The BlackRock plan further explains why, for the first time in history, the Fed has hired BlackRock to go direct and buy up $754 billion in both primary and secondary corporate bonds and bond ETFs, exchange-traded funds, a product of which BlackRock is one of the largest purveyors in the world. Adding further outrage, the BlackRock-run program will get $75 billion of the $454 billion in taxpayers' money to eat the losses on its corporate bond purchases, which will include its own ETFs, which the Fed is allowing it to buy in the program. BlackRock additionally has large shares in media. BlackRock is the biggest company you've never heard of, a media monolith. BlackRock and Vanguard are two of the big three passive fund asset management firms. The third, State Street, is owned by BlackRock, whose largest shareholder is Vanguard. It seems all roads lead to BlackRock. Vanguard and BlackRock are the top two owners of Time Warner, Comcast, Disney, and News Corp. Four of the six media companies that control more than 90% of the US media landscape. Together, BlackRock and Vanguard own 18% of Fox, 16% of CBS, 13% of Comcast, which owns NBC, MSNBC, CNBC, and the Sky Media Group, 12% of CNN, and 12% of Disney, which owns a number of subsidiaries. Media behemoths that may present themselves as rivals are in reality owned by the same company. The editorial authority of BlackRock in the companies in which it has a stake is debatable. But the point is, it can direct narratives globally and influence geopolitics at the grandest of scales. I've only run you through just the tiniest bit of BlackRock's power and reach. There is a lot more out there, a lot more information is out there, and I would recommend people go to campaignforaccountability.org if you want to learn more. The questions I want to raise to the Central Coast community are, what are the implications of having massively powerful global corporations being awarded contracts by our government, particularly when these same corporates create partnerships with foreign-owned companies to control our important energy assets in our backyard? And secondly, based on BlackRock's sway over US politics, what are the implications for us as Australian people regarding the Australian government's relationship with BlackRock? If you see this video after the submission date closes and you want to put some feedback through, you can email EnergyCo at contact@res.energyco.newsouthwales.gov.au. You can also request from Central Coast Council any submissions, feedback they have supplied regarding the project being awarded state significant infrastructure status and the BlackRock battery contract.